So, Sarah, thank you so much for joining us today. I am thrilled for me and my listeners to learn more about your background.
Yes, thank you, Mindy. It's so delightful to be here. What a pleasure to talk to you and to your guests.
Yeah, thank you. So, you and I have something in common. We're both Gallup-certified strengths coaches, which is actually how we met. But then we realized we're also both speakers and in Mic Drop Academy. And so it was really serendipitous to learn the different ways that we are connected. And when you reached out and said, hey, let's have a virtual coffee and get to know each other, I knew before we even got on the call that you were going to be my new friend.
Well, I'm so delighted to hear that because I was definitely watching you on the internet, really from a speaker standpoint. You're out there doing such cool stuff. And I was sort of looking at you like, oh, I wish I could be more like Mindy. And then I
Oh,
saw you were in a
gosh.
photo with all of my strengths coach friends. And I thought, oh, well, now I'm reaching out to her. I was intimidated at first, but if you know my strengths coach friends and you're a strengths coach, then I felt like the barrier was removed for me to slip into
For
your
sure.
DMs.
For sure, for sure. I don't want you to be intimidated. I do put a lot of energy into growing my speaking business though. So, I'm not surprised that you saw that because that's been my focus. But I also do a lot of speaking with strengths too. So, let's talk first about obviously we have some of these things in common. And one of
hmm
the things that I definitely want my listeners to take from this call is your take on energy and positivity and good energy and how that translates to well-being in the workplace. So how did you start talking about or exploring the concept of good energy?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I actually, as a Clifton Strengths coach, my top
Mhm.
five, if you're familiar with Clifton Strengths, are positivity, woo, communication, harmony, and activator. And I've always
Okay.
said, I really feel like when I first found them out, I was almost embarrassed because I was in graduate school and I was with all these like high analytical, high achieving people. And
Mm.
I was more like, oh my gosh, we should like hang out later and
Yeah.
study together, come to my house for a party. Like I was just the social queen. And so I
Mhm.
thought, oh, are these very serious? And I learned over time, over recognition and positive reinforcement, that when I really leaned into my talents, I could become my best self. And so that
Mhm.
is really a key tenet of my business, Collins Collective, is working with organizations to learn the talents, the innate talents of their people, so they can double down on those and
Yeah.
achieve true excellence and not just mediocrity.
Mhm.
However, I sort of had my identity shaken up when I
Okay.
entered into motherhood because I had a really interesting transition to motherhood. So I actually was a director of a career center at a university. And then when I became a mother, I decided I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to focus on my family and I'll do a little career coaching business on the side. So I have a son. And then before he's even a year old, I have twins. I get pregnant with twins.
Oh
And
boy.
so in 18 months, I go from 0 children to 3
Yeah.
children. And I had also left a full-time job that I had a lot of
Mhm.
identity in. So if you've ever had a big career transition, that can shake up your identity. When you become a
Yeah.
mother, that can shake up your identity.
Yeah,
And
for
then the
sure.
pandemic hit when my children were babies.
Oh my goodness. Oh
So it was just sort of like
god.
bam, bam, bam.
Yeah,
And
all
I
at one time.
really had operated under the philosophy that because of my talents, I was just like lucky to be the life of the party. I was
Mm,
lucky to be able to show up in a room and be present with people and to bring the good energy, if you will. I had a
right.
little bit of that charm and charisma that I just leaned
Mhm.
on. I thought, okay,
Yeah.
this is just who I am.
Yeah.
But in this season of identity shifting,
Mhm.
I lost my luster. I
Mm.
wasn't able to show up in rooms with my natural personality.
Mhm.
It just wasn't the same. And so I came to this realization that your good energy is not a personality trait. It is
Mhm.
not something you're born with, but in fact, it is something you can build.
Mhm.
And during the pandemic, as I was coaching clients and working with organizations, I started running this idea by other people too, because what I saw is even the analytical, high achieving people wanted to control the energy they brought into a room.
For sure. For sure.
And
Yeah, because
so,
if you're analytical, it doesn't mean like I could talk strengths all day. I am
mhm,
a big fan of the Clifton strengths. But, every one of the top 30, the 34 strengths is one piece of you, right? And
exactly.
and if you're analytical, it doesn't mean that you can't bring positive energy. That's for sure.
Exactly, exactly. And so I really personally was doing research and running
Mhm.
small experiments on my life to figure
Mhm.
out how do I get back that energy?
Yeah.
Or maybe it's like not showing up for me because I'm in a hard season. But when
Right.
I go to a room to sell a new client or to speak to a group, I still need to tap into the energy that day.
Mhm.
So I was really running these little experiments based on all of the research I was reading about well-being and
Yeah.
happiness and engagement and all the things that we want in this life.
Mhm.
I was like, how do we get that for everyone? Not just
Yeah.
the people who are positive and charismatic, but for
Right.
everybody.
Mhm.
And so that's really how the Good Energy Club was built. Is it was on this
I
idea
love it.
that okay, here are some of the things I've discovered
Mhm.
and I wanna teach people about that because I feel like that is who I am at my core as a teacher, a
Yeah.
facilitator, and
Yeah.
so I actually had a group come to me in the pandemic that said, "We would like to have you come talk to our group, but I don't know on what, but everyone's struggling." And it was she was
Mm.
explaining exactly what was happening to me. Like, everyone is fearful, everyone is burnt out, everyone is tired, everyone is,
Mhm.
all of those things, but we still have to show up. We have to show up
Yeah.
in our families, we have to show up in our businesses. So can you please come talk about how we do that? And so
Yeah.
that was where the Good Energy Club was built. Is I said, "Okay,
I
I'm gonna
love
take
it.
everything I've learned in my own life and working with my clients and put it into a workshop
Yeah.
and deliver it." And it hit, and
Yeah.
those people found it helpful. And so we just kept running it again and again, all on the
Mhm.
philosophy that your good energy can be built. It is
Yes.
not something you're born with.
I can totally see why pandemic and post-pandemic time, that would be such a helpful topic. I can tell you, I was the head of HR for a global nonprofit during that time, and everybody expected the leadership to have good energy all the time, right? But one of
Mhm.
the biggest takeaways I had from the pandemic was that your leaders are struggling too. And we tend
Yes.
to always think, well, HR's got their, act together because they're always positive, right? And if they're not, something's wrong. And the CEO, well, he should be positive because he's the leader. And,
Mhm.
I feel like during that time, nobody was well. And
Yeah,
so we started looking at well-being a lot differently than we had in the past. So it sounds like your topic was really good timing.
it really was, and it was really bred out of the ecosystem of our lives, which I feel like
Yeah.
sometimes the best topics, that's how they come about, and what I have
Mhm.
found, even if in this post-pandemic world, knock on wood, that is where we
Mhm.
are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Things are still hard. If you wanna look at a global scale, we're talking war, famine, like
Yes.
crazy politics and all the things. And if you
Mhm.
wanna talk about on the micro scale, like, people still have to deal with grocery prices, gas prices, grief, suffering,
Childcare,
job
you name
loss,
it. Yes.
exhaustion, distraction. So it
Mhm.
isn't like we're all better now. We all have it
Right.
figured out. We are
Right.
still in this place of some days might be good, but some days aren't good. And so the
Yeah.
Good Energy Club is really this idea of whether you wanna practice our pillars for a lifestyle, or if
Mhm.
you want to tap into them for the moments that matter, right? That big
Mhm.
job interview, that conversation for a promotion, that big conference you're going to, a competition
Mhm.
you're entering, on the days where you need to show up because your outcomes are dependent on how you show up.
Yes.
This is the way that you can look at to say, how can I implement some of these things? And the
Mhm.
great thing is, they're all free. Everyone has access to them. And it really is a mindset change and some
Mhm.
intentional actions that you can take. And I truly believe that if you do all of them or even just one, you can
Mhm.
shift your energy.
That's amazing. Let's talk about what the pillars are. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, well, the foundation of the pillars is built on habits. You
Okay.
were in HR. I feel
Oh,
like as
yeah.
a speaker, we talk about habits all the time because
Mhm.
we everything we do is built on a habit, really.
Yeah.
If you think about the way you brush your teeth, the way you drive to work, the way you sit down at your desk to start
Mhm.
working the day, there's so much of that you're not even thinking about. It's just the natural way you do things.
Yeah.
The thing is, habits, once we get them, they can be hard to break.
Mhm. Yes. Yes. We often think that habits are always positive, but we can have negative habits too. And so habits come in both forms.
Exactly. And so in the Good Energy Club, our foundation is built on habits. This idea of what are those things you naturally do without
Mhm.
thinking? And can we start to shape those to be a little bit different? So this is
Mhm.
really for my lifestyle friends who are really thinking, I want to be able to show up with good energy more days than I don't. And
Yeah.
so then it's reshifting our habits. And so the three pillars that we build habits around are one, connection. And
Mhm.
connection is really a helping people be known, knowing
Yeah.
people, being with
Mhm.
people. The next one is presence. And really, in the Good Energy Club, a lot of presence has to do with putting away your phone.
Mm.
And it is really about attention, not distraction, because we are
Mhm.
often distracted by our phone. And our phone is like a energy vampire. If you've read The
Yes.
Energy Bus, it sucks away.
Yeah, it sucks the energy right out of us, right? It really does. It really does. Yeah.
I imagine any Harry Potter fans out there, I remember, oh, what did the Dementors, when
Oh,
they, like,
yeah.
suck, the face out of someone, that's how I think we all probably are with our phones. We have our
Mhm.
phone, and it's just, like, sucking our soul out of us
Yes.
and into it.
Yeah, and I keep hearing that, the next generation is really turning more analog and that this is gonna change, and I personally use the brick. Do you know what the brick
Oh,
is?
I use the brick too,
Oh,
Mindy.
yeah. The brick is, like, so helpful for me to focus in work and personally too. If you're listening and you're not sure what the brick is, it's literally just the word brick, BRICK, and it's a device that you can buy that basically turns your phone into just a phone, is what they
Yes.
say.
Yeah.
And for me, it has been really helpful. They are not sponsoring this episode, so
I know,
but
but I
they it
keep
has been
thinking
really
they
helpful.
someday they're gonna sponsor me. You put it on my vision board because I talk about the brick in
Yeah.
every conversation
You
I have
do,
about
yeah.
this because it's been such a great tool because it really puts friction between you and those things on your phone that are distracting.
Right. Right.
And then the
Yeah.
third thing in the Good Energy Club is fun. And,
Mm.
when we talk about fun, we're thinking about lightness, trust, right?
Yeah.
Joy.
Yeah.
And it's really, if people can experience some humanity with us.
Mhm.
And so it's bringing levity to us. So that's what we're focused on is getting a dose of connection, putting away our phone and having a little bit of fun. Whether you do all three of those or just one of those are
Mhm.
habits that you can get into that elevate your energy. And what's really cool is the research backs all of this up. So I always tell
Okay.
people like if you want to look at engagement stats, guess what? It goes up when you're connected with people. If you want to
For
look
sure.
at the stats on distraction, your
Yeah.
engagement at work, your engagement in your life, it goes down when you're distracted on your phone
Even with
more.
your children, I have 2
Mhm.
teens right now, one a little bit more focused on his phone than the other, but definitely interested in, that distraction of whether it's music or watching an F1 race or whatever it is, the phone. And that connection, is so, so important. Now, when you think about, I guess when you teach at
Mhm.
organizations, how do you integrate the pillars into the advice that you give teams and leaders?
Yeah, so we try to break things down into little, small, tiny habits that people can think about implementing either in their lives or at their jobs. And what I
Okay.
love about the Good Energy Club, you know how people always talk about wearing different hats? Like, I wear this
Yes.
hat at work and I wear this hat at home, and we
Mhm.
all are wearing different hats. I'm like, that's so true. However, you're the same girl underneath, okay?
Yeah.
So if like girl's tired, it don't matter what her hat look like, she's still tired.
Yeah.
And so we have to take care of the person wearing those hats.
Mhm.
And so we bite size these into habits. And my idea is I'm always telling people about moving 1%, just one.
Mhm.
So a lot of times I use the visualization of a pot of boiling water.
Mhm.
So you put a pot of water on the stovetop and you're looking at it and everyone says like it never boils when you're watching it. And it looks like nothing is happening, right?
Yeah.
But
For
at
sure.
what degree does that water start boiling? Do you know?
Mhm.
Listen, I didn't know either. I had to look it up, Mindy, and now I have it memorized. 212 degrees.
112. No, see, that would not have been my guess. I would have said 100 and something. So
Yes.
212 degrees. Okay.
Okay.
Interesting.
So, but when you're looking at the water, you think nothing is happening until it hits 212 and then it starts to boil. But what is actually happening to the water?
It's warming up every minute.
It's
Yeah.
warming up, right? It's
Yeah.
slowly getting warmer and warmer one
Yeah,
degree at a
for sure.
time. This is how I explain development.
Mhm.
I wish I could come into an organization and like make your people be boiling water immediately. But
Mm.
that's not how it works. Development is
Yes.
slow and steady. It's consistency. You
Yes.
are the pot of boiling water. And so you have to know if you just show up and do 1% better, 1 degree better, one step
Mhm.
better today,
Yeah.
over a year, you will find you're in a different place. You will
Yeah, for
find you will
sure.
have a moment, you will have a conversation where you go, oh my gosh, I handled that so differently than I would have last year.
Mhm.
That's your boiling point. Okay. So
Okay.
when we're thinking about, well, how do I change my life? I'm not trying to do a full overhaul. I'm not saying like, let's come in and flip the table on your life. No, because that's
Yeah.
not realistic. It's not
Right.
achievable. What we want to do is we want to make little tiny changes.
Mhm.
And that's why I talk about habits. And
Yeah.
so I've got a few tips in my tool belt for people based on each of the pillars. And of course,
Okay.
there's more. And what I
Yeah.
love is sometimes we give the Good Energy Club in workshop style, and I invite the audience to tell us theirs because
Yeah.
inevitably, when we start talking about this, someone has figured out something that works. And
Mhm.
so if it works for them, I want share it with the group because if
Yeah.
I just want someone to walk away with one thing they're going to try. So do you
Yes.
want to hear some of the
I would
tips?
love to. I would love to. Keep going.
Okay. So for presence, which is really that eliminating the distraction of your phone and your
Mhm.
devices, I really
Yes.
think we were not meant to go from small screen to medium screen to big screen or to be sitting and watching our big screen with our medium screen and our small screen in our laps.
On our laps. Oh my gosh.
We're made for more. We're made for more
Right.
than just
We're made for
screens.
more. For sure.
One of the things we talk about is the pocket pause. Now, the things about the Good Energy Club, it is so simple, but not
Okay.
easy. The
Mhm.
pocket pause is that when you are with someone, you put your phone in your pocket.
Okay.
Because when you are sitting in a meeting, in a one on one, at the dinner table, and
Yeah.
your phone is out, face up,
Mhm.
what are you telling everyone in the room?
That you're on guard for a notification,
And the
right?
moment that sucker lights up, where does your attention go? Boom.
Yeah. It goes straight there.
And how
It
often
goes
do people
straight
say,
there.
"Oh, hold on," and they're just checking that
Yeah.
notification? So how much are you really locked in with me,
Right. Right.
right? So we
Yeah.
do the pocket pause. I don't want you to just even flip it over. I want you to put it away. And what's
Mhm.
really telling when I give this in workshops or keynotes, I ask people, "How many of you have your phone out right now?"
Yeah. I would bet a
Right?
lot.
Very
Yeah.
telling, very telling.
I would bet a lot. And, sometimes we think one of the things I love when I do brick my phone is that it does turn it just into a phone. And I
Mhm.
say, like, if anyone were to call me, including my mother, my sister, my brothers, my husband, my kids, it would be an emergency because nobody calls, right? We always
Yes.
text each other. And so I'm like, if I'm just turning it into a phone and it rings, it's probably worth me answering. Otherwise,
Yes.
it's probably not that important, right?
You're so right. My dad the other day called me from his home phone, which he still has a home phone, in the middle
Yeah.
of a day. Immediately was like, "Oh my god, what's
Oh
wrong?
my
What's
god, what's
happening? Why
wrong?
are you
Yes,
calling
of
me?
course, of
Why
course.
are you
But,
at
like, I
home?"
was just in a meeting and my text kept going off just right before we started this recording, and it was my 15-year-old who was at school, by the way, texting me pictures of T-shirts that he likes, and it just kept going off and off and off, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, what is something must be wrong," and he's like, "No, mom, I like this T-shirt. Oh, wait, I like this T-shirt."
You're like, "I can have these notifications silenced," it
I know,
turns out.
I know. I was like, "No, didn't need that distraction." It was funny because I always think when somebody's calling from school or school hours that there's something wrong, and it was, like, all about a cool F1 T-shirt that he saw.
Oh my
So,
gosh, that's so
yeah.
cute though.
It is. Yes, it is, and I'm
Yes.
glad that they communicate, but,
Yes, but it can
you know
also wait till later.
For
It's one of
sure.
those things that's like, I'm happy that you wanna talk to me about it. Also, I don't need to be interrupted.
Right.
The stat is people pick up their phone 144 times a day, and that is a low stat. I've seen it higher.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's interesting. 100 they pick up their phone 144 times a day. I've not
Mhm,
heard that one.
mhm.
I've not heard that one. That is so interesting. W my most requested keynote talk is about networking in a hyper-connected world, and the stat I say is that, the average person gets 121 emails and notifications a day. And yeah, and when we think notification, we're talking, Teams or Slack or
Mhm.
personal email or work email or LinkedIn DMs or Facebook DMs that you know what I mean? Just the notifications that we live in the world we live in are nonstop.
So think of that. If you put those 2 stats together, this is
Yeah.
not science, this is just Sarah speculating.
Yeah.
120 notifications and
Yeah.
emails. and we're picking up our phone 144 times a day. That means every single time somebody decides to notify you, be
Yeah.
it Target, your supervisor, your
Yeah.
child, you're looking at it plus a handful of times more. When
Yeah.
you go to check the time, how many times have you picked up your phone to check the time or the weather? All of a sudden you're locked into something else that you never intended to be. Think about, you take your phone to the bathroom. If you're listening, are
Mhm.
you taking it with you? Can you go to the bathroom without it? Are
Right.
you stopping at a stoplight and looking at it? I mean, we have a real crisis on our
We
hands
really do.
when it comes to our attention. This is a true epidemic. And I
It is.
think that the phone is causing so much lack of disconnection
Mhm.
because we
Yeah.
think we're getting connection. And I think your phone can be a tool for
Mhm.
connection, but it has to be
Yes.
really intentional. And
All of
most
it can.
people will end up in an unintentional scroll
Yes.
phase if they just are picking up their phone and not thinking about it.
Yeah. I mean, I say all of it can because, social media will get a bad rap. And on the other hand, like that's how I communicate with so many people and I have relationship with them over Facebook or Instagram or whatever
Mhm.
it is, LinkedIn for sure. But I think you're totally right. And I think your correlation between the overuse or over addiction or over reliance on our devices does zap our energy. It does make us more tired. Certainly, looking at screens has been proven to make you tired,
Right?
right? It has been proven, but just the amount of our brain being distracted so much does take away from our presence and our energy that we put in a situation.
Exactly, exactly. And that's where we move to connection. So the
Okay.
another piece of this is connection, which I feel like we have lost the art of connecting so much that
Hmm.
we do connect online, which I'm with you. Like I love connecting
Yeah.
online. I'm on
Yeah.
Instagram a lot and I have friends on Instagram who I've never met. I don't even know how I know them, but we
Yeah.
send messages back and forth
Hmm.
and I care about them. I want to know what they're doing. And so there is an ecosystem of connection online, but it
Yeah.
is not all of my time spent on that app,
No.
okay? There
No,
is
for
so
sure.
much mindlessness to it. And
Yes.
every minute that I am on that device, I am not present with the people in front of me. So I have these 3
Hmm.
small children, I have a husband, I have my neighbors, I have my friends, I have my clients, I have
Right.
all of these people in my circle, and how much of my time is spent with them? How much of my time am I reaching out to my old friends from college? How much of my
Hmm.
time, am I extending the village to a new mother in my community?
Mm,
Or do I think I don't have time for that? I'm too busy, even though I've
right.
spent 5 hours a day on my phone.
Right. Oh, I feel like 5 is conservative some days, you
It
know?
is,
It
yeah.
is.
And so
Yeah.
connection is knowing people. It is being inconvenienced even, because that's why I feel like
Mhm.
people used to say, somebody had a new baby, we're going to bring them a casserole, or
Right.
somebody is hurt, we're going to go and mow their lawn. And now people are like, oh, I don't want to bother them.
Mhm.
God, no, they're
Yeah.
not doing well. I don't want to bother them. And in
Yes.
that, we have lost so much of what we are. Primates. We are, mammals
Yeah.
that want to be together in groups. We strive for that. Even the most
Mhm.
introverted person out there still
Yeah.
needs other humans to thrive and
Mhm.
exist.
Yeah.
Loneliness is as toxic to your body as smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
I totally believe that. I mean, I think we are in a loneliness epidemic, and they say
Hmm.
it's actually worse with men than it is with females.
I believe that. I feel like, at least in my world, there's this renaissance of women trying to connect. Book
Yes.
clubs, group trips, girls'
Mhm.
nights. I feel like the women have been stifled. Maybe it's just
Yes.
in my era, but that they're trying. They want
Yeah.
it back. And I don't see the movement as much for men. I don't see my husband
Mhm.
trying as hard as I
Yeah.
am to build and maintain the friendships. Because
Mhm.
in midlife, it gets really hard
Oh, it
to
does.
build and maintain friendships. But I think that
Yeah.
that is some of the lifeblood that we need.
Mhm. It really is. So tell me about inside of organizations. I'd love to hear how your talk can
Hmm.
affect employee engagement because as you're also a Gallup certified coach
Hmm.
and I talk about often that we are at a 32% engagement rate. That
Right.
means that the vast majority of people at work are not engaged in what they are doing. 32% is so low.
So
I think I
low.
saw that it just went down again. So it might even be high. So when you think about employee engagement and the concept of the good energy being a leadership skill that you
Hmm.
can bring, Tell me how those 2 work together.
Yeah, I've got a perfect example for this. So one of the things we need to remember is Gallup has the Q12, which is their engagement survey. And one
Mhm,
of the
mhm,
questions on the Q12 that often surprises people is,
mm,
do you have a best friend at work?
mhm.
Now, if you do have a best friend at work, you are 7 times more likely to be engaged at your job. So
Wow,
right there,
7
lever,
times.
right? We want engagement to go up. How do people get a best friend at work?
Yeah,
A
by
lot of people will
being
question this. They
positive,
think
yeah.
like, I don't want a friend at work. But I
Yeah.
want you to think, I bet if you're listening to this, there has been at least one job where you had a best friend at work.
Mhm.
And I bet there was something about that job, even if you hated the work,
Yeah,
that you probably stayed in that job longer because of that person. You
yeah,
right? There was something there for you,
something drawing you. Yeah, for
right?
sure. Yeah.
Because we're connection. We are connected beings. I
Mhm,
want to give you a story. I work with this team. I've worked with them for about 3 years. We did a high performing team program utilizing Clifton strengths. And now we meet about every quarter. This is at a local organization or mid level managers. And
mhm,
the thing about them is they're a team, but they don't really have to interface a lot because
okay.
they have their own teams who are really, doing their thing. So they do, of course, they have their weekly meetings, but beyond that, they don't have to work together. But they are recently going through a huge strategic plan and initiative. And the thing about this team is they're a lot of high achievers. They have high achiever and responsibility for Clifton strengths. They
Mhm.
actually, behind the curtains, call themselves the Get Shit Done team because they are just executors who go.
I would be part of that team. I even have a mug that my boss gave me once, and all it says real little on the bottom is "Get shit done."
Yes, exactly, exactly. You'd
I
fit in
love that team.
perfectly. You'd
Yeah.
fit in perfectly. But what we were finding is that they were not connected to one another and that
Mm,
this was really a detriment to how they worked
yeah.
and their success. And I would talk to them individually. They would each feel it, but they just seemed to not be able to get over the hump. They just like
Mhm.
couldn't figure out how to connect. Actually, I got them to meet up on their own to just connect. The way they scheduled it was a 15-minute Zoom call once a month. Do you think
Okay.
that they became more connected?
Wow, interesting, starting with 15 minutes. Okay.
Okay, this worked a little, but not they weren't building relationships. They were
Yeah.
definitely not building friendships. And so when we met again, they sort of assessed it like, yeah, we're meeting now,
Mhm.
but
Okay. Yeah.
it's not what we had hoped. And so they determined that they were going to start doing a lunch hour once a month where they got together for lunch and there was no agenda. They were just going to show
Okay.
up and talk.
Just show up.
And this has started to totally change their dynamic
Mm.
because where connection and friendship, if you will, is
Yeah.
built is in trust. It's in
Yeah.
knowing someone. It's in the
Yeah.
personal details. So as much as we want to say sometimes like, oh, work is work and don't bring home into this, like, I'm sorry, if Katie has a new baby at home and that baby is struggling and is colicky, Katie's
Mhm.
showing up different. And if
Yeah.
you don't know that, it's hard to have empathy for what that looks like,
For sure. For
right?
sure.
Or maybe John, he's got his kids in elite baseball and he's got to
Mhm.
travel all over the country for
Yeah.
this. This is why his schedule is looking a little different. I mean, there are things there, right? Someone has a sick
Yeah.
mother, somebody's got a dog that just went through
Mhm.
surgery. There's all sorts of personal dynamics. And if
Yeah.
you don't know that, it's hard to have connection, trust, and be able to move the needle. So we
Mhm.
know having a best friend at work raises engagement. Well, how do you build
Mhm.
friendship at work? You got to get to know people. It's like
Right.
Brene Brown talks about, trust is like a jar of marbles and
Mhm.
it slowly builds one marble at a time.
Yeah.
Well, if you can add some more touch points, right? And even in the same group, how many times have they said, "Oh, I should talk to someone. I'll Slack them," even though
Yeah.
they're right there. They're like
Right.
10 feet away. I could get up and go talk to them. But like there's this all of a sudden in the workplace, we feel with remote work and just sometimes
Right.
the dynamics, it's like, oh, it'll just be easier. But what
Yeah.
is actually easier sometimes and better and more effective for connection is like in real life conversations. It's
Yeah.
getting up out of your chair and walking the 10 feet
Yes.
to
Yeah.
have the conversations. So again, everything in the Good Energy Club, this is not rocket science. I couldn't do it
Right.
if it was. This is the
It's just
simple
intention.
stuff. It's attention to the stuff that matters. And the thing is,
Mhm.
it's not always easy. It is
Yeah.
sometimes easier to slack someone than to get
Right.
up and go to their
For
office.
sure.
But what
Yeah.
is the outcome we're looking for?
Mhm. Yeah.
And I believe, and what we have found in the Good Energy Club is when you seek out attention
Mhm.
and connection and
Yeah.
you get rid of distractions, and then
Mhm.
even better, you add a little levity and fun to that, you will feel your entire being and energy elevate. You will
Mhm.
show up to rooms differently. You
Yeah.
will be present in a way that you weren't before. And your
Mhm.
presence is about to be the most valuable thing because as
Yeah.
AI develops and as we get more technology,
Mhm.
presence is going to be the value. And so
Yes.
you have to control your presence.
Absolutely. I mean, there's nothing, I actually am a huge fan of AI. And I also believe 100% in what you're talking about. It's not going to replace the energy that we show up with at work and the way that we work together. And, I find so many times we get caught in, even just frustration of like, oh, what did they mean in that email? And just immediately assuming negative energy, really.
Yep,
And picking up the phone or just walking over and talking to someone can turn what we perceive as negative into either nothing at all or actually a positive interaction.
absolutely. Absolutely. It
Yeah.
takes a little bit more effort to
Mm,
do that. But I think if you can put the effort in the things that matter, you're going to
mhm.
see exponential benefit to your life.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, how does someone find out about the Good Energy Club or find out about getting to know you or inquiring about your speaking business?
Yes. Well, you can find me on Instagram. I'm Sarah Coach Collins. You can find me on LinkedIn, Sarah Collins. My website for my career. So, for my career folks, the corporations, we do Clifton Strengths Development and Leadership Training. And that is wearecollinsco.com.
Okay.
And then if you're interested in the Good Energy Club, you can find out about that on my website, but we also have a website for that called thegoodenergy.club. And
Okay.
there you can learn about the keynote. So this really developed as a keynote. I deliver it as a keynote and workshop for organizations and groups.
Mhm.
But we also have a club. So we send out the Sunday Spark every Sunday
Oh, I
night.
love
And
that.
this is ways for you to go into your week with good energy. So we give
Mm,
you the 4 to explore, which are the habits, connection, presence, and fun. We give you one
okay.
idea for each. We ask that you just take one and try to incorporate it into your week so you can build a life of good energy. We also have a membership for the Good Energy Club that you can pay to just subscribe to. And we do monthly virtual meetups and soon
Okay.
coming monthly workshops. So, for the
Okay.
people who are looking to live this lifestyle and to be
Mhm.
surrounded by other people who are looking to build momentum in their good energy, we come together to support each other and hold each other accountable. And of course, build connection and have a little fun.
Yeah, gosh, I just feel like I wanna be part of that club.
Well, you can. Welcome. Everyone is welcome. There are no barriers.
Okay, all right, that's so cool. I love what you're doing, I really do, and like I said, as an HR leader, like, I just see so much of what happens in organizations, and I think the work you're doing is so, so important. So I just really appreciate you taking your busy time to come share it with us today.
Well, I'm delighted to be here and to talk to you and your audience about the Good Energy Club. And I hope maybe someone listening to this just took away one thing that they
Yes.
can use to try to impact their energy and just see if it works. And if it does, then please DM me. Like, let's use that
Yeah.
technology as a tool to connect, to
Yes.
lift up the stories of people who are being intentional with their energy so they can
Mhm.
go out and spread more goodness in this world. Because Lord knows we need it.
I we do need it. We do need it. I'm a fan of reading my news online and the apps and needless there's no question. We all could use some good energy right now. So, I
Exactly right.
appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Yes, thanks, Mindy.